Hello YouTube. This is just a little video to let people know my experience with trying to get a child the opt-out that we're entitled to for religious education in secondary school. My daughter's now 14 and we have been in the UK for a bit 5 years or so. When she came, she was in primary school, and I noticed that Christianity was interwoven in the school, and that doesn't really offend me. But I waited to hear if we were going to get a more rounded spectrum of religions included in this religious class. And I looked it all up on the internet, and the national curriculum suggests that we definitely include all the different dogmas of the different religions. And so I was kind of looking forward to that because I knew that would happen in secondary school. So we got to secondary school. I think you're about 12 or so when that happens, 11, 12. And we're right back into the same stuff we've been learning in primary school. Stuff about Judaism because it's the foundation for Christianity. And then basically the history of the church. And I started to find these tests she was taking and the homework she was getting more and more disturbing, because at one point she was asked to pass judgment on what made Protestantism better than Catholicism. And I think that's highly subjective. And I understand that the schism is a part of religious history. But in Northern Ireland specifically, that is not the kind of thing that you really want to be encouraging, is this divisionist thinking that, you know, well, there's us and them, and we believe differently, and they believe differently, and obviously the British schools and the national curriculum over here are going to be Protestant teaching schools. And I felt it was inappropriate. Then she got a homework, or it may have been a quiz, but I got to see the questions. And they basically asked her about her faith, and she was going to be given a grade on her belief system, whether or not she believed that miracles happened, whether or not she believed that miracles still happen, whether God actively listens to your prayers, or whatever it was. But I did feel the questions were completely inappropriate, and the thought that my child was going to get A, B, or C, or whatever marks, based on her religious beliefs, appalled me. We're not anti-anything, but I want her to know about all religions, and we have grown up in a very multicultural family, and going to a Montessori school, we're very globally aware. I came over here and I was waiting to see this religious education evolve, and it didn't. And it stayed Christian, and it stayed very dogmatic. And when they finally decided to broach the subject of other religions, as the national curriculum requires, they prefaced the whole section with the words, "This is not what we believe, but," and also they used the phrase, "We don't want to confuse you, but we're going to let you know what some other people believe." Now, I guess I was under the naive impression that this was an academic subject, and I've just come to realize it's not. It's basically church in school, and I'm very opposed to that. There's an idea of separation in state, which is very strong in America, and I obviously spent a lot of years there. But I just can't get around the fact that they're basically having church in school, and it doesn't really matter what faith you come from, that's what you're going to be taught when you go to school here. So I looked into it. I had heard that there was an opt-out, and when I approached the school about it, they seemed to not know what I was talking about, and they kept on putting me off. We'll talk to the other administrators, we'll be talking to somebody on the board, we'll find out, we'll get back to you, and they never got back to me. So 8 months, it was a total of 8 months from the time I brought up this thing and said I would like my child to be opted out of religious education. Took 8 months until they finally conceded, and only because I really forced the issue. And they were quite content to continue to put that off until she was out of school. I felt very let down by this, And I also realized that I can't be the only parent. Excuse me, somebody's cutting the grass right outside. I can't be the only parent in Britain that has a problem with this. But I do want to make you guys aware that you do have the option to take your child out. They will be asked to sit by themselves in another class and do basically nothing. So my child's very bright and interested in her education, and she takes the time to go over her work. Since she's dyslexic, she takes the time to do her homework, and I commend her for that, because I have to say I would probably goof off. But it really does sadden me that that's the reality of it. You send your child to school and you expect them to be learning things that are very relevant to life, to education, and they're not being educated, they're being churched in school. And I think that faith is up to the family to expose the children to. As an academic subject, I'm all for religious education. I would love my child to go into school and learn this is the Islam, and this is what Muslims believe, and this is who they worship, and this is what their holy book is called, and these are their basic principles. And I would like them to learn that about every major religion, and then the minor religions as you get more abstract and further on up the years, because I think that religion is a very important and integral part of the human experience. Kind of as a branch of anthropology, as I heard one YouTuber say. But it definitely should not be a case where I'm sending my child to school and they're instilling them with a faith and dogma that I don't necessarily agree with. So that's just food for thought. And I thought if any other parents were out there and they were thinking of these things and struggling with this, you should know that by law you are allowed to opt your child out, and your school may give you a fit. I was naive. I waited a long time before I really forced the issue. If I'd known then what I know now, I would have marched in and said, I'm sorry, we can't do that. You need to take her out of this class. But lesson learned, my younger daughter won't have to suffer this. And I guess we will just keep learning about life and culture at home, as we do. And I've tried contacting the school board. I've tried contacting various officials in the Department of Education to ask them if there's ever going to be a change, to ask them if there's an option for people of different faiths or of no faith, or, you know, because the state schools are funded by my tax money, your tax money, and the general public is against our tax money being spent to fund faith schools. For instance, people are outraged that somebody wants to start an Islamic school that's run by the state, that's funded by our tax money, because it will instill religious dogma to those children, and that we'll be paying for that. So I fail to see the difference, because they're doing that with this Christian dogma as well, and they're calling it religious education when it should just be called church. And I don't think that's up to school to decide. I don't trust somebody else's idea of Christianity and religion to be instilled on my child, because faith is a very personal subject, and I think we all find our own way, and I think it's certainly not up to some stranger on a school board to decide what my child should be believing and then grade them on that. So that's my experience. As you can tell, it's really upset me a lot over these last couple of years. So I hope somebody finds this useful, and good luck to all of you.